As Jerry was repairing a stretch of road in his driveway, he suddenly spotted a cover that he hadn't noticed before. Curious, he pulled on the cover to see what was below, only to uncover that it was a hidden trapdoor. Heart pounding, he opened it, revealing a dimly lit underground room. But what he found inside was beyond anything he could have imagined. Without hesitation, he reached for his phone to dial the police, his voice trembling as he described the haunting discovery. Will the police even believe his story? Click the like button and subscribe for more. Not long after, Jerry could hear the police sirens in the distance. As soon as the police entered the room, Jerry could hear their confused voices. But when they came up again, Jerry was shocked. But what did Jerry find in the hidden room? Why did he call the police over it? And what was so shocking? Jerry's messy and rundown driveway had been bothering him since the day he moved in. He had been living in his home for 3 months now, but never had the time to fix it. On a lazy Sunday, he decided it was time. He put on 90s music to get him motivated and began to clear out all the clutter. Bit by bit, he started to see the progress. At one point, he realized that after today, he could finally use his driveway for what it was intended, to park his car. But as soon as he started repairing a few cracks at the side of his driveway with cement, he noticed something he hadn't noticed before. There was a piece of metal embedded in his driveway. It kind of looked like a sewer hatch, but it wasn't round, it was rectangular. As he walked over to the hatch, he noticed how big it actually was. It was just big enough to fit a human. Jerry crouched down beside it and tried to pry it open with his hands. The hatch began to move. Jerry's eyes widened in shock. It slowly dawned on him what he was looking at. He had prepared himself for a sewage pipe and bad smell. But that wasn't at all what he was looking at. Instead, he looked at what seemed like a long tunnel down under the ground. As Jerry looked down, he also noticed there wasn't a ladder or stairs. Jerry knew he had a ladder somewhere in his garage, so he quickly ran inside to look for it. Lorraine had to think long and hard. I do remember one couple who lived there maybe 20 years ago or so, she finally said. Jerry looked at her, waiting for the rest of her story. All right, maybe I'll talk to you later, Lorraine, he said as he watched her walk away. He had hoped she would be able to tell him more. He quickly walked back to his garage and grabbed a flashlight, a face mask, and a pair of gloves. Luckily, he found it, and he managed to descend all the way down. Everything around him was pitch black. He quickly grabbed his flashlight and turned it on. As his sight began to set in, he was stunned by what he saw. He managed to rip the tape off of one of the boxes and looked inside. It was stuffed with clothing and personal items, probably from the previous owners. But then he suddenly noticed something out of the ordinary. Behind the heap of old clothing and personal effects, Jerry felt the cold, hard surface of a door. It was expertly concealed, and he wondered how he hadn't noticed it earlier. Upon closer inspection, Jerry saw a rusty padlock guarding the entrance to the mysterious door. Frantically searching the room, Jerry's eyes settled on a sturdy metal rod discarded amongst some rubble. Desperation and curiosity combined, he thrust it against the padlock. After a few more forceful strikes, he heard a satisfying snap. The door inched open, revealing only darkness beyond its threshold. Before him was a long stairway, its end shrouded in mystery. Taking a deep breath, he cautiously descended into the unknown. They were layered, thick, and seemed to have an inner lining of metal. What kind of room needs this kind of fortification? His lawyer had gone over every inch of the property's blueprints, and yet this wasn't mentioned anywhere. How could they hide something so monumental? He whispered, feeling both betrayed and intrigued. Jerry's feet finally touched the level ground, revealing a vast room before him. Rows of sealed boxes, much like the ones he had discovered earlier, lined the walls. However, these boxes were different. They were metallic, with complex locking mechanisms and warning labels that glinted in the dim light. He wrestled with one, trying to pry its lock with the same metal rod, but this time, the obstacle proved more resilient. After what felt like hours, a faint click echoed through the room. One of the boxes had finally yielded. Slowly lifting the lid, Jerry's eyes widened, and a cold shock coursed through him. Inside lay a set of aged photographs, documentation, and most chillingly, artifacts that looked like they belonged to a time and place of great historical, perhaps even forbidden significance. Jerry's heart raced, realization flooding him that he was out of his depth. These were items that shouldn't be tucked away in a hidden basement. They belonged in a museum, or perhaps with authorities. Hastily, Jerry pulled out his phone, intending to call the police or maybe an expert. The operator's voice, calm and even, broke into his explanation. "Sir, are you in any immediate danger?" Jerry sensed the underlying skepticism. "I understand this might sound bizarre," he stammered, realizing how the tale of hidden rooms and mysterious artifacts might sound to an outsider. "It's not just about me," Jerry pressed on, the panic in his voice evident. "These items, they're old, possibly invaluable. They could be stolen or worse." He recounted the fortified room, the sealed boxes, and the weight of history he felt in his hands. "Please," he pleaded, "I need someone to look at this." The familiar wail of sirens grew louder, pulling Jerry from his anxious thoughts. A police cruiser pulled up, followed closely by another. The officers exchanged puzzled glances as they surveyed the hidden stairwell. "We might be in over our heads," one murmured to another. "Perhaps an archaeology or antiquities unit?" The leading officer nodded, realizing this wasn't a typical call and that experts would be required to uncover the full story behind Jerry's shocking find. As the first box lid was carefully removed, a collective gasp echoed throughout the room. Stacks of crisp bills, bundled together with rubber bands, greeted them. One box after another, the room became a sea of currency. This has to be millions," one of the officers whispered, both awe and shock evident in his voice. The sheer magnitude of the find meant more than just a local inquiry. "We need to go deeper," one detective remarked. "This kind of money doesn't just appear out of nowhere." Detectives began their work by diving deep into the house's history. The property records, bank transactions, and witness accounts became their guide. The trail led to the couple that sold Jerry the house, but records showed they had vanished without a trace, leaving more questions than answers. The peaceful town became the epicenter of one of the most extensive search operations it had ever seen. "They can't have gone far," an officer declared, determination evident in his eyes. Weeks turned into months, but persistence paid off. A tip led detectives to a small town on the coast, surveillance footage, eyewitness accounts, and ultimately a quiet arrest in a local cafe. The fugitives had aged, thinking they had outwitted the law, but the past has a funny way of resurfacing. Handcuffed and read their rights, the two stood a stark contrast to the life they had built post-heist. Their clandestine life, filled with fake identities and constantly looking over their shoulders, had come to a dramatic end. The town was abuzz, struggling to reconcile the image of their erstwhile neighbors with the now revealed bank robbers. With the fugitives apprehended and the stolen cash confiscated, Jerry was left with an expansive underground bunker. Friends joked about turning it into a man cave or a private cinema. But for Jerry, it was a constant reminder of the house's dark history. He pondered the idea of sealing it off permanently, or perhaps finding a purpose that could turn its tainted past into a hopeful future. In a surprising turn of events, after the legal proceedings and asset reclamation, the bank decided to reward Jerry for his accidental but pivotal role in cracking a case that had long gone cold. The reward was substantial, an amount that would easily pay off his mortgage and leave plenty more for a comfortable life. After weeks, Jerry's heart steered him towards closure. The bunker had already revealed its secrets, and it felt inappropriate to repurpose it lightly. With the help of contractors, he began the process of sealing it, ensuring that its dark tales remained confined to the past.